Hey guys, Real 111T. Just wanted to do a little bit of a video to talk a little bit about the Bluewater stove restoration silencer caps. Um, uh, Basically, these are some caps that are available, and they're available a little bit cheaper than some of the other caps out there. I'm going to see if I can tell you a little story as to why. Basically, the first silencer caps that I ever picked up were ones like this right here. There was a guy over on the Classic Camp Stove forum, went by the name of Bernie Dog, named Gary Adams, who was a member over there at Classic Camp Stoves, and at one point, he was looking at a design of a Primus product that was made towards the beginning of the 20th century that a lot of people found very collectible. And basically, it was a little silent cap, very similar to these, that you'd pop into the burner bell of some of the smaller stoves, and it would let you have a silent cap on a stove that was otherwise primarily designed as a roaring design stove. These were very rare items, and he sort of reverse engineered them and basically made a couple little improvements. And for a while, he had these available. You know, he was selling them to members on the Camp Stove website. And I've got two examples of this here. This is a fairly early one. It says BD10 on it. And this particular one is designed for the 8R or the Svea 123. Okay, and this is manufactured using traditional metal fabrication techniques, very labor intensive. I want to say that I think this bigger one over here was about $40 is what I paid for it, and then this one here was a little bit less, I think. And I don't think I really appreciated at the time how much work went into making them. You know, they were made, the main body of it is made out of brass tubing, and then the top is sill brazed on and polished, and the bottom is sill brazed. And there's actually an inner structure to this that you might see a little bit there, to allow the fuel to flow through it properly, and to cut down on chances of it burning underneath, which can be detrimental to the cap, and also it just doesn't burn right that way if it's burning underneath. So these two, and this one was one that was designed for the Nova, as you see, ND06. Basically, those were handmade, and like I said, $40 I think is the most I paid for either one of those two, and they were probably worth a lot more. And the reason I say that is that after a while of making those on the Classic Camp Stove site, basically what Gary decided to do is he said, all right, look, I'm going to start selling these on eBay. And he did, and the prices just went straight through the roof. There's a lot of collectors who were interested in picking these up, and they were very, very labor intensive. It started taking up a lot of his time, from what I understand, and you know, just basically to get the maximum sort of benefit from that, he was putting them on eBay, and I think he was probably getting prices that were more in line with what they were actually worth and what his labor was actually worth as a skilled metal worker. And he has videos up. If you look at Bernie Dog Cinema, he'll show you how, you know, there's a video up there just recently where they show him sill brazing a cap similar to this together, and you'll kind of get an idea what the process is. The other thing to keep in mind about these caps is every single one of these holes is drilled out, and from what I understand, they might be drilled out multiple times depending on the cap. So that's an awful lot of labor involved in that. So, you know, at some point, you know, even that, you know, the demand for those and then the demands on his time, I guess, got to be too much. But he found an ingenious way around it with this sort of emerging technology of 3D printing 3D metal printing, okay, where all you have to do is have a CAD drawing, and your CAD drawing has to conform probably to certain materials properties, and as far as the 3D printing process, and basically once they have the design, they can just print them out. Okay, so we see here 3 examples. This one is the cap design for the Primus Omni-Fuel. This one, I mean, this shows you some of the stuff that you could do that you just wouldn't be able to do with the let me see if I can focus on that. Okay, yeah, we're not going to focus there. This is showing you just some of the things that that just wouldn't be possible with the handmade caps. This is the revised design for the Nova. It's designed to set right down. See, the Nova's got a tricky problem in that they keep the distance between the top of the burner and the bottom of the pot very low. So in order to fit the number of jets so that the stove wouldn't overpower the cap has to be larger, and because of the heat conducting fins in the Nova, that wasn't possible. Okay, so with this design, it could set right down into the fins, and then that would work. And this is a newer version. Basically, this is an unfired version of the 3D printed version of this cap for the 8R and the 123. Okay, so from what my understanding is, as he was coming up with these designs for the 3D printed ones based on the handmade ones, he had some conversations with another gentleman about the whole process and about the concerns of 3D printing. And from what I understand, that gentleman then went off and basically started another company that basically manufactured the caps, had the 3D printers manufacture a stock for them, and then they would sell them on eBay. Okay? So a lot of times when you are looking around, the more visible ones are the ones that are right up there on eBay. Okay? So, and those are fairly expensive. Okay? It's a business for them. Now Gary, from what I understand, didn't have any of this really patented. He wasn't really looking at it as a business venture from the beginning. But at the same time, the work that he did, basically, he didn't appreciate basically someone coming along and scooping it up. Now, that's his side of the story. I mean, I know he was making these caps a long time ago, you know, and you know, when things started to go to the 3D printing model, you know, which is easier on the manufacturer, all of a sudden these other makers popped up, and his main competitor is not the only one. There's one out of Korea that's making caps as well. But the point is, what Gary decided to do, since he didn't really have a legal recourse, and it really wasn't worth his time, I don't think it was what he thought. But what he's done is he's put these up onto the 3D metal printing sites, and you know, these sites are kind of like Redbubble, where, like, you know, an artist or a designer puts a design up, and then basically the service is basically just like a printing service, and people can order it. So there's 2 of them. There's Shapeways and iMaterialize that he has linked through the main page of his website at bluewaterstoverestoration.com. I believe that's what it is. If you just Google Bluewater Stove Restoration, I'll try and put a link in the description. But if you go there, there'll be 2 links to iMaterialize, which is, I believe, in Belgium, and to Shapeways, which is somewhere in the United States. 2 3D printing outfits. And basically the way he has it set up is the cost is 5 cents above cost. Okay? So in other words, it's the cost to 3D print it plus 5 cents. Plus shipping, basically. And the reason that he basically did that, I think, you know, I mean, it seems pretty obvious, is to undercut the hell out of the competition, because he didn't appreciate the way he'd been treated, which I totally agree with if that's what happened. You know, I think it's kind of a genius solution, especially if, you know, he wasn't counting on that as income, you know. And the only reason he puts it at 5 cents is because if he put it up as a sort of like a freeware kind of a situation, then he would not have statistical information provided to him. But because he makes that 5 cents per cap, he gets to know how many of his little angels are going out into the world, basically. Okay? So, you know, basically the way I look at it is, if you've got one of these caps and it doesn't have a paw print on the top, you probably pay too much for it. Okay? His email address is also up there on his main page at Bluewater. So if you have any questions about him, you know, he's the kind of guy that'll get back to you. You send him a little question, he'll get back to you with like a 2-page response. Maybe not the same day, but in a couple days, you know, he'll get back to you. You know, and he's usually, you know, I find him to be, you know, very helpful and insightful about this kind of thing. He's been working on these for years and years, and he understands an awful lot about, you know, how the gas vortexes and stuff work inside the cap, and I found these to be very stable in terms of underburn. You know, they don't get underburn unless you really kind of sort of abuse the lighting process. So, yeah, basically, you know, my attitude is, if you're looking for one of these caps, you know, this is the way to look. These are the ones you want to be looking at, you know, from a cost perspective, because these things really have a reputation, I found, of being very expensive. And I can tell you that this one I ordered through iMaterialize, and this cap was $29 including shipping. Okay, now $29, is that a lot of money? I mean, it depends how you look at it. I mean, $29 is more for some people than others. You know, I mean, if you look at it from a purely practical standpoint, I mean, you could go down to Walmart for $29 and buy a Primus Classic Trail and, you know, 2 cans of gas for $29, you know, and have, you know, a complete stove system for the cost of, say, this cap. And these ones are, you know, more depending on what stove you have. But none of them are over $50. I think they're all in the 20. I think this is 23 plus shipping to the 40-some dollar range for the top ones. But you know, as another YouTuber has said, maybe it's just that second kind of cool. You know, if you're into these stoves and you know you want a conversation grabber, or you just want it to be a little quieter. These might be, you know, a silent damper kind of cap might be the way to go. So I just wanted to bring that out and talk about that a little bit. Like I said, I'll put the links in the description box below. Yeah, if you're interested, this might be the way to go. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.